Howdy folks, welcome back to the Steampunk Desperado channel. This week, my topic is more steampunk and more vampires, though in this case, it's an anime. Now in a recent video, I did a review of a very remarkable steampunk novel called Anno Dracula, which is the first in a series of 7 books by Kim Newman. Now, this vampire fiction is, as I said, an anime, though it is based, of course, on a manga, which I have not read. I don't tend to be much of a manga reader. I like it, but just don't have the time. The work is The Case Study of Vanitas, which is based on a manga series by Jun Mochizuki, who is, by the way, a female writer. And it has appeared in monthly Gangan Joker since 2015. The anime version of this popular manga consists of 24 episodes, which were released by Studio Bones and originally aired from 2021 to 2022. Being the vampire and steampunk aficionados that we are, it surprisingly took Mrs. Desperado and I this long until we noticed it. Vanitas has everything that we love in a story. Vampires, steampunk styling, and borrowing of fictional characters from other classic works. It's like Anno Dracula in that respect, though it doesn't borrow nearly so many, and some of the borrowing is a little metaphorical. It's like characters that are based on other characters, but they aren't like calling by the same name or anything. And that includes the two of the protagonists, which are loosely based supposedly on Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. The story takes place in a steampunk version of France, and the characters do arrive in Paris in an airship. And although there's a lot of steampunk styles and so on, it's not really dominated by steampunk tech. It's more of just the styles, the looks, and that's pretty awesome too. The story was inspired by the author's visit to the City of Lights, Paris, as well as the 1994 movie Interview with a Vampire, which was based on the classic Anne Rice novel, which I also read and loved. Like a lot of Japanese adaptations of Western legends, Vanitas really twists it in some interesting ways. The protagonist, who calls himself Vanitas, after the titular book, which is more of a grimoire, a magic book, he's a human who's obsessed with vampires, and he claims to be a vampire doctor. That is a doctor who treats vampires, and some of the other characters refer to him as a quack. So you have to be the judge of whether he's real or not. In the story, vampires are like a parallel society, and they're known and mostly tolerated by humans, though there is an inquisitorial branch of the Catholic Church that opposes them. And some of these people are very fanatically anti-vampire. The condition Vanitas is trying to heal is the malnomen, which is a curse that causes vampires to behave as mindless, bloodthirsty predators. Normally, they're fairly civilized. And malnomen, I think it has something to do with the word bad name. I think it has something to do with somebody getting a hold of the vampire's true name, which is another characteristic that often arrives in fantasy fiction. That is, you have a true name, and if somebody finds it out, they can manipulate you and so on. But anyway, this curse causes them to become monsters that have to be eliminated, and there's just no other choice, unfortunately. There's been no cure but death. This anime does include characters from other works, such as Lord Ruthven from John Polidori's 1819 work, The Vampire, Count Orlok, who was at least named after the vampire in the 1922 silent film Nosferatu, and the seductive Jean, who is supposedly loosely based on Carmilla in the Sheridan Le Fanu 1872 novel of that name. And I read that too. It's pretty cool. These and many, many more appear in Anno Dracula. Not so many in this work, but it's still fun. Vanitas' friend and partner in adventure is Noe, a vampire who appears to be a handsome young man, and it's implied that chronologically he's about the same age as his human companion. Vanitas is eccentric, he's impulsive, he's brash and boastful. So he's not all that likable, but he is kind of a rogue and a scoundrel that he can sometimes be charming. When he falls for the vampire woman Jeanne, he pursues her ceaselessly and relentlessly, and often obnoxiously, even though initially she can't stand him. Noe, by contrast, is the straight man, the one who wants to play by the rules, even though he's a vampire. It's refreshing that the two young, handsome male leads have a strong and complex friendship that is no way homoerotic. Because we have enough of that these days, I think. There's a whole subgenre of anime and manga in Japan called yaois about gay males. And you have a lot of that in American YA fiction. So it's nice to see a more traditional friendship appearing for a change. Noe has a love interest too, and that's the vampire Dominique de Sade, whose name implies that she's related to the very notorious real-life Marquis. But she's in no way like that. In fact, she's kind of she's kind of shy and retiring, and she dresses in a less feminine, kind of a quasi-military style than the very elegant Jeanne. Now, the vampire woman Jeanne. Now, she's become one of my very favorite anime characters because she's perhaps the sexiest anime girl ever devised. That's because unlike so many female characters in anime, she's not a teenager, she's not in high school, she's not glued to her cell phone, the silliness of the average modern female. No, she is elegant, she is gorgeous, she's curvaceous, she's an adult woman, and I'm not quite sure how old she is, but I think she's also comparatively young for a vampire. She wears elegant, beautiful costumes. And it shouldn't be surprising that such a appealing and complex female character has been written by a woman. We men can be rather shallow at times, can't we? And yet, Jeanne is fantastic. Her flustered and confused reactions to Vanitas' attentions make her all the more charming. This contrasts with her alter ego, the Hellfire Witch. When duty calls, she becomes a merciless executioner of vampires who've been affected with the curse and have subsequently gone rogue. So she has to eliminate them. Thus, she is alternately vulnerable and violent. She's a fascinating combination, to be perfectly blunt. She's also a counterpoint to Noe's milder love interest, Dominique. And again, as I said, despite her intimidating surname, she is far less aggressive than our pink-haired goddess, Jeanne. The story follows Vanitas' quest to find a cure for that curse, to win Jeanne's love, and to work with Noe without driving the poor guy completely crazy. As in many animes these days, we have numerous flashbacks to the character's childhood. It's almost mandatory. And all of them have tragic elements. So I've seen animes where these are kind of boring, but in these cases, yeah, they do serve a purpose. There is a creepy, fearsome antagonist, a creature or creatures that calls himself, herself, itself charlatan. The battle scenes are exciting and well crafted. The graphics are amazing, and one of our favorites was the animation of Vanitas' magic book. Whenever he brings it out, they'll show the book opening up, and the writing in this grimoire is constellations. Yes, it's got dark pages, and there's all these star patterns. It's almost like Braille, but it's beautiful. you know, very creative. The love focused episodes are typically pretty sexy and sometimes quite funny, except for the one where Vanitas, in a role reversal, and he's finally pretty much won Jeanne over, he becomes quite befuddled over her. And he's like, oh my God, I've won her. What do I do with her? After he's pursued her so relentlessly. And I thought it was a little too tropish for my taste. But still, you get through it. In one story arc, the protagonist visits an island that's gotten stuck in time and is ruled by the vampire shapeshifter Chloe Dapshire. I don't know if I'm saying that right. This is based on the 18th century French legend of the Beast of Gévaudan. And it's a bit confusing at times because there's a lot of time travel issues in there. But Jeanne has some of the major action scenes here, which are very good. And it's also cool that it's an actual legend. And this was the original thrust of the story, supposedly. This was the writer's original idea. Well, there's an island that's stuck in time, and there's a vampire that's ruling over it. That's kind of a cool notion. If you enjoy vampire-themed stories but aren't too picky about it being faithful to the lore, because this really isn't, you'll enjoy the case study of Vanitas. Extra points if you also love steampunk. In this case, it's more style than substance, but style is great too, right? This has been my review of the anime series, the case study of Vanitas, based on the awesome manga series. I assume it's awesome because it produced such an awesome anime. And let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Have you read the manga, for example? What did you think about it? Were you smitten with Jean as I was? And please also like and subscribe. Check out my works on Amazon. The links are in the description. And especially check out my newest release, Hunter's Wager, a cyberpunk fairy tale. It's a fair bit more adult and violent than my other works, but that's cyberpunk. That's kind of expected, right? For now, this is Steampunk Desperado saying adios amigos from the Steampunk Desperado channel, where the past meets the future and the present is extraordinary.